Hello and welcome to this video. Now, about 3 weeks ago from this recording, Dylan Burns made a video talking about Hassan. And to be honest, it was a fairly good video. It had a few faults here and there. There was a couple of instances where, like, well, for example, playing down American imperialism, as if it's like it's just like if you build a McDonald's, like that. No, it's more like if your entire nation's economy is crippled and all of your money is your entire economy is dependent on America. It's more like that, and you basically become a proxy of America. And obviously, the problem of this, right, is that I technically live in a nation that's, in a sense, one of the beginnings where it's like it's at the border, it's like America says something, it's like you kind of do it, you do it sort of stuff. So, like, for example, in my country, if Apple want to have a little tax cut, they get it. We're, in a sense, more pro-American business than America is. Like that's just, there's a few issues in the video. And there's all these things where, like, when you attack the whole thing of both sides, you do have to be aware. Like, for example, in the discussion here we have, which is Israel Palestine, if you say both sides, you're not saying both sides are equally bad. You're saying both sides did something. So, like, for example, the Ukrainian example, if Ukraine was to shell Russian troops, yeah, they're in Ukraine, so I think that's valid. Somebody saying both sides did shelling isn't saying both sides are wrong. They're saying both sides did this thing. And clearly, the Russians are the one who are fucking wrong, seeing as they're the ones who are invading a country. And the Ukrainians are not doing that. So, technically speaking, you critiquing a both sides argument is kind of similar to somebody critiquing a both sides argument in Palestine and going both sides. Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes a both sides argument is not both sides in the wrong, it's both sides did something, and one side is in the wrong, and the other side just did a thing. Now, let's dive into the video. So a few issues with this video. We'll get.
So I'm going to talk about Roger Waters. Roger Waters, for those of you who, I guess, don't like Pink Floyd, was a part of the band Pink Floyd. He co-founded the band, in fact. More recently, he's been getting the headlines not for his musical performances, except for that one where he dressed like a parody version of like a Nazi from his film. I think he did it in Germany and it got a lot of heat. Putting that aside, the only other reason that he's in the news is because of political statements. What he said about the war in Ukraine, trying to end American support for Ukraine, saying that
I think that American support for Ukraine is pretty much essential. I don't really agree with everyone saying American support for Ukraine. I find that to be basically just siding with Russia, because that makes very little sense. Because for all my criticism of their playing down of American imperialism, clearly American imperialism is a lot better than Russian imperialism. That's kind of clear. So that's the thing there. I do find that to be very odd when people are want to pull American aid out of Ukraine like that. To me, just makes very little sense. If American aid was comprised of heavily tied aid, or if Ukraine wasn't fighting a war and America was just like, here's it for protection just in case, that would be a place where you might go, well, I don't know, if you weren't being attacked, American would be, is this just an excuse to put weapons? But it's not. You're fighting war, so, like, there's no they don't want to put a base thing, they're taking advantage. No. At this point, that's kind of gone out of the border. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter if they have ulterior motives, because you're kind of fucked either way. But yeah. To me, by the way, the whole thing with Russia, one of the points I wanted to make with the original video that made the headlines, I guess it was in the critical space, is the fact that Hassan at the start was arguing that part of the territory which is, to me, makes very little sense. The whole argument of, the Ukrainians speak Russian, like, yeah, I speak English. Like, yeah, my fucklas gwelga, Neil long fucklas gwelga. So, no will me conch, asperla. And she much calculor, no like chia on Dino and Sasna. Doggy Aaron, I guess Mario and Landini. Sorry. Is it okay for English people to invade Ireland and kill Irish people because we speak English? You know why we speak English? It's because you fucks, pushed it on us. That's, for the most part, the reason why most Ukrainians would speak Russian. It's kind of colonialism. That's what happens. So to me, by the way, that whole thing, that army just doesn't work as a concept.
the West provoked Russia into invading Ukraine. Whether you're talking about any other number of political events that
I don't think that's true. That makes very little sense. I mean, from Russia's perspective, it's like, okay, what we're going to do? We're going to invade a nation so that all these countries will be really nervous about us invading even further. And that way, they won't put military bases next to us. So by expanding our borders, we'll make it less likely that someone will put weaponry beside no, that makes no logical sense. That is how you get bombed out of existence. That is literally how you cause a situation where people are like, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna have nuclear annihilation because it's better than if the Russians take over. So you know what? Let's just do that. That's how you get that situation. It would make no sense for Russia to do that for the fear that they would be, fear the West from NATO. Because, yeah, I wonder if there's maybe a little bit more of a concern, in these countries about Russia now. I wonder if that might have, ramped up the whole thing of maybe we should have protections against Russia now. That might be a thing there. Sorry, this is becoming a very weird sort of.
We disagree with him on. But most recently, he's been getting in hot water because he said that the Hamas attacks on October 7th may have been a false flag. Now, I don't know how he thinks a false flag works. But
now, here's where it begins to become a problem. Because now I have seen your attention before. Don't leave yet, okay? I'm explaining the point I'm making. You're gonna leave, aren't you? So if someone makes a point and they say this thing was this, right? Which is more likely, if they're wrong, or at least you think they're wrong, that their definition is skewed, or they're a complete fucking idiot who just doesn't know. Which is more likely, that Buddy here is saying that Israel was aware that the attack was going to happen, or that it didn't happen. I think it's that Israel was aware. That would be the more likely option, wouldn't it? Because that would be quite literally would include. I'm not saying that he does think this. I'm just saying that opinion would include all of the content that it proves a mass kill of people. It would be, yeah, they did. Israel knows the new. All of that, all of the deaths, all of the murders, all the rape, it would prove all of that. Because, that it does. Also, it would also show a reasoning for why there was military taken away from that area, why there was a sparse amount, why it was mostly civilians, despite the fact that it was on a border. Why would that be? That sort of thing. Why there was very little, military aspect there, which would be, what's going to happen. And you don't really care about civilians. It would also, by the way, make a little bit of sense, because this is what governments do on a regular basis when they are fighting a terrorist group. By the way, this includes, all types of places. Legitimate groups that are maybe not so legitimate in the ways they try and achieve their stuff, and also groups that are a little bit not too legitimate, they will allow attacks on civilians to bolster support. And also to encourage confidence. Because if you are a politician, you really don't want to get murdered. So if you want to ensure that the violent people who want to do violence are pacified, you just go, okay, one thing they could do is kill me, or they could kill thousands of civilians. And as a politician, you can choose which one you want to go for. Your own life, and the lives of your colleagues, or the lives of a few thousand of your own civilians. And the problem is, I don't really think a lot of these governments care that much about the lives of their citizens. Clearly not. The English killed thousands and thousands of their own civilians via austerity. They don't care. That's clear. They didn't care whether civilians in the IRA was attacking people. Now, the point is that that's a key thing there. Now, obviously, does that make the attacks of those people attacking okay? No. But the point is, when someone says a false flag, you need to understand that that's going to be a thing they're trying to say. Not that it didn't happen, but that, it was known it was going to happen, or possibly even it was helped along.
A false flag is when a government or some body, some organization, tries to make something look like a real attack from the enemy or a real attack from some desired opponent in order to justify attacking that opponent. Or
arguably, you could include instances where the government will collude with a apparent enemy to attack civilians, where they will go, yeah, you can do that. We won't do anything. This happens with criminal activity, just general criminal activity, where the government will just let criminals do something. They'll let them do a massive drug deal. They'll let them, even in some cases, murder people. All this. Because the idea is, well, yes, we're letting this criminal organization continue to murder people. People are going to die, but less people will die because we'll be successful in eventually crushing them, because we'll be able to infiltrate them further and we'll be able to gather more evidence. And we need more time. So yes, unfortunately, Barry is going to be killed, and so is Tommy, and Jenny, and Michael, and Timothy, and Riley's going to have his arm sawed off. But the thing is, while they would survive if we did this, other people wouldn't. So when you say, it's people he seems false flag, this is what a false flag is, okay, but you know what that is supposed to mean, you know what that's supposed to mean, and you know that is what happens in cases. That does happen. Anyway, it's just.
Or to justify some policy. For example, Alex Jones would always say that Sandy Hook was a false flag attack because
Is it
they want to take your gun, they're going to use it.
I think what would be a better example, it would be 9/11.
He has donated $50.
Hey.
Happy 2023 elections. Ohio, Kentucky, Virginia.
Obama, thank you so much for the $50. I appreciate it. Look at that, 150 from Site Chat today. I appreciate, and the 5 gifted earlier. I appreciate it. Thank you.
There's something about streamers that really pisses me off.
What were we saying? But yeah, that was something that Alex Jones said was
Yes, I mean the brutal murder of 50 children. Oh, it's your boy donated 50 subs. Oh, for fuck's sake, this is I find that to be. Ooh, we'll say like disrespectful. Like, well, the founders don't think it's disrespectful. Okay, that doesn't make it not disrespectful. Anyway, point is,
the false flag. An actual example of false flags, I want to just give you all the schizo, like fake false flags, is the Germans at the start of World War II launched the war, most people know this, using a false flag attack.
Yeah.
They had German soldiers dressed up like Polish soldiers and attacked some German posts across
that
the
happened
border.
multiple times. They also did a fake attack on radio towers.
Or like attacked, like blew up a rail line, like planted some bombs, killed nobody. And then they said, oh, look, Poland attacked us, and then they invaded.
Yeah, and it's not really that much of a false flag, is it? Also, that is a better example of false flag, because Sandy Hook is not, like, it wouldn't be a false flag, because Alex Jones was claiming Sandy Hook was a fucking actor situation. The Germans did technically attack their own territory. You're not arguing that they did really harm to their own territory, but you're arguing they attacked it, which is a little bit more of you're understanding what someone means by a false flag. It is this problem that I keep repeating myself. People always seem to do, which is just be uncharitable and assume somebody is being lying or being ignorant, instead of being like, well, maybe they just use this word a little bit differently.
The Russians
Also,
actually
context is important.
some false flags at the start of the invasion of Ukraine.
Like, wrongly says, you cannot be wrong about a suggestion of may have been, because you don't knows it wasn't. Obviously, my point would be, does it fucking matter? Like, does it really matter that much if Israel was fully aware, and when I say Israel, I mean the government, was fully aware that this was going to happen? If they were fully aware, and in fact possibly even helping them on the way, if they were fully aware of this, would that really make much of a difference? To Israelis it would, but to Palestinians and the people who were fucking killed, not really that much. To their families, yes, it would, because it would imply the government was perfectly willing to slaughter them as an excuse. But it doesn't make much of a difference. Because the people who were killed were still killed, and the people who killed them still fucking killed them in both the situations. You're not changing that by suggesting it's a false flag. Also, saying may have been is, you can't say wrongly. Just the amount of...
Putting aside the accusations that Ukraine has weapons of mass destruction in the form of chemical weapons that target Russian DNA, they had people dressed as Ukrainian soldiers get next to armored vehicles and do a quote-unquote invasion of Russia that was geolocated to be deep within Russian-controlled territory.
Nobody believed that, though. So.
All right. Meaning that it was physically impossible for the Ukrainians to have invaded Russia from that direction. It doesn't even make sense. Why would Ukraine invade Russia when they have so much territory they want to take back? And why would Ukraine choose, right when Russia has all the troops on the border, to try to invade Russia? Like, the only way you would ever be successful. But in your wildest dreams, if you were trying to make it successful,
You can have people who are stupid, so...
You wouldn't attack Russia when they have the most troops surrounding you.
Also, being illogical is at times logical because the unexpected can be successful. This is what happened during the Second World War. Territories that were not the best to attack were attacked because it made sense. Because if you were, looking at it, you go, well, yeah, this would be the most useful to us, but it's surrounded by their forces. This is the place where they have the most forces. So why would we do that when we can attack a weaker point that, yes, is strategically a lot less advantage to us, but it is a lot weaker. So, it's just better for us. Anyway, it's just, it's just,
much sense. Putting that aside,
it's clear, I'm not saying that you can, obviously, no, I don't believe that, but I'm just saying, just because something is insanity doesn't mean it's not what people would do. The insanity thing isn't really a good idea, because, okay, that's just...
located people in Russian territory, so it could have only been Russian actors. The point is, those are some examples of actual false flags. Now, the difficulty here is that there's just so much footage. Whereas in the German false flag, there was no footage, so the Germans could just say, we were attacked, and attack with no real...
That's actually worse. If you don't know, it's worse not having evidence to your side. Because you can doctor evidence. You can create false video. You can edit video to be on your side. This happens all the time. And I don't even mean in situations where it's like the general public believes. I mean in situations where somebody who believes an insane thing can get a source where there is video evidence that they're right. It's edited. And the problem, of course, is the actual unedited version is out there. It's not like they filmed it for the purpose. They took the film from somebody who was like an actual journalist, and they went, okay, let's just clip that out and maybe add a bit of audio here and connect the footage up with something else. And there we go. Now we have a piece of video that agrees with us. Of course, the issue in that scenario is there's no way to actually defend it because someone can go instantly, well, no, because this isn't even like a conflicting video. This is the same video but edited. We can see it's not like a different angle where it's like maybe the original video was the one that was a bit doctored. No, this is clearly doctored from the original video. So even if your side is right, you still just did propaganda. Like, you can be right and edit videos. That's clearly an edited video. We're not like saying you're wrong. We just think that video is clearly edited, and that occurs in many cases, in many events. You know, it happens all the time. That in school shooting situations, in clashes with protesters, like Fox News, for example, will go, well, we're going to choose a video that maybe shows them attacking police officers and not the video right before where the police officers were being a protester. We're not going to show that part because that part doesn't really agree with us. That sort of thing. It's the same video, and the video is out there. But that's the thing there. It's not. Video isn't really a great example there because it's better that you have video because you can edit it to be in your favor in most cases.
Backing for their claims, and whereas in the Russian case, they only had one piece of footage to show it, and it was blurry. You couldn't see.
Yeah, but that's not good. There's a reason why nobody believed that. Like, I would there's a good chunk of Russian propaganda that even Russians don't believe. Like, it's just like, okay, that no,
But the detail was very short.
I'm not saying the majority. I'm just saying a good enough chunk. There's I'm just saying footage isn't a great example because footage is literally it's bad for Russia. They didn't have more. If they didn't have video, they could have faked it. So
sure, they tried to keep the information coming out from that clip very little so people can find the flaws. Whereas in this, there's just this footage.
Okay, my problem though is why were there easily recognizable flaws?
Yeah, like there's so much footage.
Like in an event where it's like loads of things are happening and you only get the video you get and then afterwards you try and have to sort of edit to your message. That's a problem. But if you're staging an attack, you control everything. You control the reactions of the people who are being supposedly attacked. You control the people who are attacking. You control the people you control what is actually recorded. All of this is controlled. So why wouldn't you make it look better? Well, because you're just not gonna really put much resources into that area because no one's gonna believe you anyway.
And there's not only footage from the IDF, from GoPros of their soldiers, and from Israeli civilians huddling together in garbage cans and in their safe rooms, trying to hide from the Hamas fighters that are going around and mowing down civilians, whether it be at that music festival, whether it be in kibbutzes across southern Israel. There's also footage from the Hamas fighters themselves. And it's not like Hamas didn't claim the attack; they claimed the attack.
This is not how. This is one thing. The whole thing of misunderstanding what someone's point with the false flag. A false flag would be, the Israel knew. Once again, would not mean the Hamas didn't do it. In fact, would not mean to me it's just a very ignorant sort of response because it's like, well, you're a professional, right? Like you comprehend the concept of people first of all claiming attacks they didn't do. That happens regularly because it makes sense. Psychopaths will blow themselves up because just they're like fascists, but they're not connected to anyone. And then an institution will go, yeah, that was us. And like, no, it wasn't that just, but it helps us, And yeah, that happens. But I'm not saying Hamas would do that because it's, but I'm saying that someone saying they did it is not proof that they did it. It is obviously proof that they want to, but it's not proof that they did it. But even if you do have proof that they did it, that doesn't mean that it's not helped along the way by the government. It's this very weird idea, and I feel it comes from a little bit of anti-Jewish sentiment because where you have this sort of view of Israeli and the Israeli government that is not separated. Very similar to views of Jews as part of the Israeli government. Like, no, they are separate. The Israeli government is a far-right government who are suspect in their democratic legitimacy. That is not the same as the Israeli people. So saying Sandy Hook is not actually a great example. It's a lot closer to more like 9/11, where people claim that America was inside out. Once again, those people would still be fucking dead. The people who say they're 9/11, they don't think those people were actors. They think those people were killed, but they also think America either have people who are very insane and think that America staged the whole thing, but then you also have people who just think America let it happen. And they don't think those people didn't die. They don't think that the people in the plane didn't intentionally. They think that all that happened intentionally. They just think it came from a different source. At least where America was involved. I'm not like that. I don't think none of it was inside. But I'm just saying that's an example. That would be the better explanation here.
Thought differently about the supposed Russian invasion, that Ukrainian invasion of Russia. If Zelensky came out right after that footage leaked, and he said, you know what? I admit it. We did invade Russia. Where Hamas was like, yeah, we did attack southern Israel. We're proud of it.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be proof though.
Yes, that was us. They openly say that. So saying it's a false flag, just on its face, it's just a fucking ridiculous statement. We have so much security.
Yeah, but you are. That is not true though. You cannot say it's a ridiculous statement because it would change nothing, really, if it were true. A ridiculous statement would require a major change. And really, this wouldn't be that much of a major change, would it? You know? Because it's not like this is a sudden conflict where Hamas is like, used to be just this fringe group that never attacked Israel before, and Israel never attacked Gaza before. This conflict, and I want to, you see this when people talk about this conflict. Like, well, no, in some cases, the conflicts do expand. In this case, not really. It's just a lot faster in both cases. You know? So clearly, there's a history here. Seems ridiculous. It's just.
We have so much GoPro footage from both IDF fighters and Hamas fighters. Hamas openly admits to it. Israel says Hamas did. Everybody else in the world knows Hamas
That's
did.
proof that it occurred. It isn't proof that it wasn't from it. Like I just don't comprehend people. It's like, how do you not? I can understand that you do not comprehend that when someone says a false flag, they don't mean the same thing as what you mean by false flag.
Anyway, let's listen to what he had to say. Is this the area that he talks about it? Yeah, I don't want to watch the whole
By the way,
9 minutes.
I'm not saying that buddy here, Roger, is saying this. I'm saying that because you haven't read it yet, you don't know. So
I really don't want to listen to Glenn Greenwald. We could just read the quotes. Let's just read the quotes. Speaking to journalist Glenn Greenwald in a recent
you
interview,
don't want to listen. Okay, that's just
here to cast doubt on
like propaganda level.
civilian death.
I don't want to show this person. Maybe you should.
role in the massacre. First saying that there's something very fishy about the Israeli military being caught so off guard, and then claiming we don't know what Hamas did do during the invasion. If war crimes were committed, I condemn them, he said, claiming the massacre was thrown out.
That part is obviously. I will say, to be fair, at the start there was a lot of confusion. There is this issue of people pulling what people said on the 8th of October, and pulling that and treating it as the same as if somebody said that yesterday. It's not the same, don't treat it as if it is.
Of all proportion by the Israelis making up stories about beheading babies. He was referring to reports that emerged days after the attack as the Israeli military entered communities ravaged by Hamas. Reporters cited unnamed soldiers to report that beheaded babies had been found in some homes. That claim was later walked back before being confirmed by a spokesperson for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who the military declined to corroborate it. Netanyahu did, however, share graphic photos of what appeared to be the burned.
Yeah, the whole thing with the Israeli government isn't great. The fact the Israeli government is far right isn't great. Obviously, the citizens aren't, mostly far right. So that's, the point I'm making is that trusting the government is probably not the best idea. Trusting the civilians is a different story. Just civilians, but not the government. The government isn't really the most reliable.
Remained the babies. As repeatedly to comment on the slaughter of Israeli civilians on October 7th, Waters danced around the question by claiming there was no way to know what really happened. Okay, I'm too curious. I gotta hear him actually say, because this shit sounds too wild when I'm reading it in the article. This shit sounds too wild.
Let's
First of all,
continue.
ask you about these issues of anti-Semitism for a second. Yes.
For the purpose of the intro, I'm gonna slow the speed down a little bit, because we just kind of need to catch what they're saying. Okay. Ooh.
The horror and sickness and disgust you feel watching what the Israelis are doing in Gaza. And I have to say, for me, and maybe it's just a byproduct
So, first of all, they say Israelis in Gaza. So
of things I focus on, but I honestly don't recall anything that has made me sicker or more disgusted than seeing the level of suffering that's taking place in Gaza right now, and knowing that we're only at the beginning, way closer to the beginning than the end. It's one of the worst crimes, if not the worst one I've seen in my life. But
is it? When
the attack on October 7th in Israel happened from Hamas, what was your reaction to that?
And let's wait and see what happened. Well, that was my first reaction. My second reaction was, how the hell did the Israelis not know this was going to happen? And I'm still...
So, let's wait and see what happens. That's a bit of a statement there. But, yeah, it's not the best race there. You can't defend that.
Okay, so it wasn't discussed. His first thing was like,
Okay, first of all, the first fella discussed about Israel bombing Palestine. So, knows.
I don't know about this, then man, the Israelis really failed. Okay, well, the second reaction, I can at least understand to an extent, like, how did the Israelis fail so hard? My first reaction would have been a disgust response, but I don't want to morally grandstand here.
Yeah,
little bit down that rabbit hole. I mean, didn't the Israeli army in those 10 or 11 camps hear the bangs when they blew up whatever they had to blow up to get across the border?
Well, there's already, okay, I don't know if you did any research on this, but the reasons why the Israeli military did not respond
this begins to begins the train of falls
quickly. Now, just watch you want to answer questions, but vaguely it has to do with a few reasons. Number one, a lot of the military was moved to the West Bank in preparation for what they saw was likely violence that was going to...
Now, the problem with this is that is literally a sign that a military knows an attack is coming, is going to let it happen, is going, but we're not going to let our own soldiers die. Civilians, sure. But no. They're useful, they're valuable. Civilians are actually, in this case, more valuable dead. This is true. It's unfortunate, but it is true.
Occur in the West Bank. And so much of the bulk of the Israeli military was not close to where the fighting was happening in Gaza.
But the problem with that is that is literally a thing people would point to and say that is evidence of Israel knowing that something was going to happen, so ensured that there would be minimal military casualties.
The second thing that happened is that, the Hamas operatives planned the operation pretty well. And so they were targeting command centers and decapitating the heads of command. So then when Israeli soldiers found out, the ones that were down south, even though there wasn't many down south, the ones that were down south, when they realized what was going on, they were calling into their command, they weren't getting responses because the command was already killed by Hamas fighters. Which then
The command centers are supposed to be more into Israel anyway. But there's supposed to be a lot more autonomy on the Israel-Palestine border, which makes sense. Like there's and that's the problem. That's one of the reasons why Palestinian deaths are also always higher than Israeli deaths. It's not just the fact that the Israelis have a strong military. It's also the fact that the Israelis just have autonomy. There's an autonomous tank, and they can go, okay, there's someone fired a rocket. There you go, that person's dealt with. We didn't have to deal with a person. This tank was here. We had a person all over there. So
further crippled the response. And those weren't the only reasons. We're probably going to find out more stuff as time goes on, but those are part of a few of the reasons that contributed to the slow response time of like 8 to 9 hours before the IDF was able to respond. Respond in large force.
There's something very fishy about that.
Yeah, we had an Israeli Knesset member on who said it seems inconceivable. This is one of the most surveilled places on the planet.
True.
And there's obviously going to be a lot of investigation, maybe not an honest.
I will argue though that a lot of Israeli border patrol is autonomous. Shouldn't really affect it that much because unless the technology is being disrupted in a more obscure way, where sort of thing where your camera feed continues, it just isn't accurate. That sort of thing. Unless that would to occur, it shouldn't.
That's one, but Israelis are angry about that as well. What I'm asking about though is, do you think what Hamas did on October 7th can be justified?
No.
Well, we don't know what they did do.
Okay, now
but
the thing is,
he's
you
dancing
cannot
around.
pause-
Okay, let me just.
No, you cannot pause that and go. Sorry, I know I paused it. Before you continue, you cannot pause that and go, oh no, what? You didn't answer the question. Okay, maybe let the person fucking speak then.
Hit this head on. Again, we know what they did. They uploaded footage of themselves doing it, walking around the corpses of civilians that they shot. If openly just.
Let's come back.
October 7th can be justified.
we don't,
Okay, so the question is can it be justified?
we
Can
don't
it
know
be?
what they did do. But
Okay, so let's say you didn't know what they did do. Remember, there are reports of them doing things that they have not been proven to have done. Now, obviously, I would argue that once again, does that really matter? Like, if you have reports of Hamas fighters raping people, and it's true. Is it really like, oh, but they also may have killed more babies in a more violent way than before? I don't really see how that particularly matters. I don't really mind either way. I'm going to go with the option of they didn't, because that's something they possibly didn't do. But does it really matter?
He's dancing
Doesn't
around.
really matter.
Let me just hit this head on. Again, we know what they did. They uploaded footage of themselves doing it, walking around the corpses of civilians that they shot. If openly just posting footage of executing dogs.
Yeah, the point is, there are other reports of things that they didn't have on video.
Random pets on the street. We have tons of security cam footage of them just mowing down passing by cars.
Once again, there's reports of doing things that they have not been proven to do. Anyway,
We have footage of them kidnapping random civilians while chanting victory slogans.
yes, once again, things that they've been proven to do, but there are also things that they have not been proven to have done, and
While dragging them, bloodied and bruised, into Gaza to be beaten by locals before then being hidden in cave systems. We know that they did this. We have
that's
more than enough evidence.
okay,
More than enough proof.
that's certainly yeah.
You can look at some of the reporting that Haaretz has done.
But just locals? Are you just gonna say that? That's
We can look at their list of Israel's dead. And I wanted to look at this list a little bit. I'm not even look at this. At least acknowledge this list's existence, because I've been seeing people sharing this around right here. So this is the original post that Israel
keep in mind. We've moved on from your man onto this.
made that had all these names of people who died. I don't even think all the names, but there's many of the names, or most of the names. And then this person posted this in response, saying, "Guys, I'm literally crying. All the names are just IDF soldiers. Just zoom in and look. It's all sergeants and majors, and they highlight the majors and sergeants and soldiers that are in this."
Why exactly would it be sergeants and majors? Do people not understand that in most cases, military personnel are sergeant and majors? There's a reason why it's really, really going to be a sergeant and major, which means that you get to have a very big involvement. But in a lot of cases, you're not the one fighting. You're the one directing people. And if you are the one fighting, you're probably going to have a fair amount of protection. Obviously, I'm saying that that's relative. Obviously, the most amount of protection you could be will be nowhere near the fighting. But anyway, the point I'm making is if, this is fake, by the way, if it was real, it probably wouldn't be sergeants and majors. It would be individual people who would be soldiers, which you wouldn't even be able to tell anyway.
Then down here, they just highlighted everything as major sergeants, soldiers, etc., etc. This is fake. This is fake. This is fake. This is an altered version.
Are they arguing that this part are sergeants, or
this is
all of this part? Because if this is all sergeant majors, that is actually insane. How many sergeant majors does Israel have? They send them all over to there? They do a part of their sergeants and majors, just their sergeant majors. How would that even? It's just, yeah.
This is a different version than this. All the names they highlighted were not soldiers. The majority of the people killed were not soldiers. This is just a lie. You can check from Haaretz's list. There's a fact check here saying several of the highlighted names are
Once
civilians.
again, that is proof, not proof. That's wrong use term. That is evidence of Israel knowing. Do you comprehend that? Do you realize that? Also, you cannot go from one person and move to a different thing and treat it as if it's the same. It is not the same.
As many as are the majority of victims. Out of the total identified 1,134 victims, 759 were civilians, 302 were IDF, 59 were police officers, 14 are rescue services like fighters, stuff like that. Soldiers made up 31% of the casualties. The majority of the people that Hamas killed in southern Israel were civilians. They could have just concentrated on attacking command posts. They could have just concentrated on fighting with cops and soldiers, but instead they spent the majority of their time.
Once again, kind of a sign. Anyway, the point is, this is, arguably
Mowing down grandmas, moms, dads, sons, daughters, and children. And that's what they spent the majority of their time doing. That's the majority of the people they killed, which is the same critique I hear from people like this of Israel's behavior in the Gaza Strip. Obviously, the attacks are different.
Are you? Okay, that's a dog thing.
The attacks are different, the style of attack is different, the details of the attack are different. I don't want to go into specifics.
Yeah, one is a terrorist group that's a little bit fascist, that's, fairly fascist. And the other is a government that is fascist. I wonder if there might be a difference there, One is a political organization that does not really have a state, and but wants one, and wants to exterminate people. And the other is a place that has a state, has people, but wants to take more land. I wonder which side can argue for not doing anything and still doing fascism.
But one of the main...
I'm suggesting, by the way, if you're a Palestinian, right, if Hamas were successful, you might want to ensure that just that in general, military people are best dealt with after you gain a bit of your state. Your statehood is. It's not best run by military people because they tend to have certain political opinions that are not often the best. My country can attest to that. We didn't kill enough of our fighters. And some of them were great. But a lot of them, no. I mean leaders, by the way. I don't mean actual members.
Critiques of IDF bombardments in Gaza is the majority of the people they kill are civilians. That is an extremely dense city of 2.2 million people, 48% of whom are children. And when they're bombarding these cities, whether it be the Orthodox, not the Orthodox Church, but the Greek Orthodox Church that was bombed, or any of the other centers that were bombed, the majority of people who are dying are not Hamas fighters, they're civilians. And that's something that is critiqued. And it's critiqued by people like this. But then instead of accepting that, it was also bad Hamas went to Israel.
Both sides on the opposite side, being like are you being like it's okay? That's very.
All the civilians. It's instead, let's edit the names and pretend that all these children actually were just soldiers. These are
that makes no. But the point is, the whole soldier thing makes no logical sense anyway. Like even if we're true, that would be a sign Israel had decided to murder its majors and sergeants and go like, man, we just don't like these people. We've decided to send them out like that. Why would there be that high number of specifically high-ranking level of the military? High-ranking members of the military don't tend to be the majority of people killed in any conflict because, like even in wars where there are only soldiers fighting other soldiers, there are no civilians deaths. The majority of soldiers are not fucking sergeant majors,
Maybe they were child soldiers. Maybe they were child soldiers. Who knows? Right. But the evidence is overwhelming from Israeli publications like Haaretz, from international publications, from video, photographic, and it's evidence from all sides, and much of it posted by Hamas themselves. To say that we don't know what they did at this point is either ignorance or purposeful ignorance. The second one being more malicious.
You are being...
He's saying we don't know what happened to dodge the question of condemning what happened on October 7th.
Okay,
On October 7th can be justified.
Well, we don't know what they did do, but...
Okay, once again, when someone hears reports of babies being beheaded, and then other reports that's not true, and then reports coming out saying that the Israeli government say it is true, but the military say it's not true. Keep in mind, the military probably should fucking say that because they're the ones who are they're the ones on the scene. So they would be the ones with the evidence. So how the fuck did the government get to that conclusion without the military? By the way, I'm not saying that they didn't. I'm saying it is still possible the military is wrong. But what I'm trying to say is that the person reading that can say we don't know what they did do, as in we don't know if they did that or not. So we don't know what they did do. So you are misrepresenting what someone could be saying. I'm not, once again, not saying that Roger is actually saying that. I'm just saying you don't know what he's saying, so don't pretend as if he's saying something which he may well not be. Anyway.
Was it justified for them?
Mama, thank you so much for these, Sabrina. Thank you.
Fuck that, man.
Of course, of course.
To resist the occupation, yeah. But again, it's what you said, it's the Geneva Conventions.
His answer is they have
okay. So you've clicked this. You've gone in this way.
Ability to resist the occupation. The question wasn't, hey, is it right?
Let's listen to the question again.
On October 7th can be justified.
So can it be justified?
Well, we don't know what they did do, but was it justified for them?
Mama, thank you so much for these, Sabrina.
You interrupted. So was he saying was it justified?
Of course, they were of course.
To resist the occupation, yeah. But
was it justified to resist the occupation? Yeah.
Again, it's what you said, it's the Geneva Conventions.
Geneva Conventions. Keep in mind, not a law.
His answer is their ability to resist the occupation. The question wasn't, hey,
not an ability. He said they should.
Is it right or is it allowed for Palestinians to resist the Israeli occupation? That wasn't the question. The question was about the attack on October 7th and the targeting of civilians, which we know happened, but Roger Waters either purposely or just straight up ignorant about. Purposely ignorant or just straight up just dumb ignorant.
They're absolutely legally and morally bound to resist the occupation since 1967. It's an obligation.
But there are limits.
There's no legal obligation for Palestine to resist. You can say morally there's an obligation.
I mean, legally, Depends. I just I don't really get the concept of legally. Like, it's just, you know. And technically, the concept of an Israeli state is, technically speaking, arguably against. You know, it's because it's a colonialist. I'm sorry. I'm making point. When I say colonialist state, I mean it's a colonialist state made it, not it is a colonialist state. I want to make it clear. So there's issues around that, legality of that. But yeah, I don't really get the whole legal argument. That's not really true, and you don't need to have a legal allowance for something.
You're making more argument. There's no legal international law obligation for Palestinians to fight the Israelis. I don't know what he's talking about.
International law, no, that's not a great example. That's just like, you know, you don't need international law.
On the way in which they can resist?
As I said in the
I mean, it could just be English law, you know.
statement that I put
Like,
out.
if the English just weren't allowed to do that, and they did it anyway, under their own laws, it would be illegal. I'm just giving an example of a situation where it wouldn't be international law, it would just be English law, and that's obviously not going to be a thing you might realize.
I said, if war crimes were committed, I condemn them.
If we know they were, don't put the
Okay, I mean, yeah.
don't put the question mark. We know it. We have overwhelming evidence. We have more evidence
When
of the
was this recorded?
war crimes that were committed on October 7th than most of the war crimes, or many of the war crimes that we have documented in human history. Like when you think of like the Armenian genocide, we don't have like super HD 4K footage from the Turkish soldiers like high-fiving saying, yeah, fuck these Armenians. We don't have like cell phone footage from Armenians being displaced from their home. We don't have security cam footage of people being shot at random or people dropping as they make a long march out of Turkey. We don't have that. We have some pictures, we have human testimony, we have some like government documentation. But when it comes to like the evidence that we can see with our own eyes, we have so much more here. To deny it at this point is either Roger Waters, through all the acid and pot smoking and whatever else he got up to, I think Floyd has completely burnt his brain and he's unable to do any research, or he's being purposely ignorant. And you can see from the way he's maneuvering around the question, and this is why I'm leaning towards purposely ignorant. He's not answering the question directly. He's maneuvering around the question, dancing around it. And so I like to be generally good faith to people, but I have lost my good faith when it comes to Roger Waters.
Yeah,
Especially
I mean,
after
I've lost all good faith to you, you fucking moron. You have misrepresented people.
Comments on Ukraine.
You know, it's like you've done tactics that are like blatant.
drift out of talking, thanks for getting to tier 1, I appreciate it.
You've done like in your original video, you kind of did a sort of style of like poisoning the water in a way, like, you know, showing like, don't agree with Hassan on logistics in Ukraine. You know, whole thing of saying that Russia is allowed to annex Crimea because it speaks Russian. Like, no, that's colonialism. That's byproduct of colonialism. Like, you speak Russian because it's colonialism. That's the reason. You know, that's not legitimate. Anyway. But the point is, one thing I will say, which is there was definitely an argument to be said that there was poisoning the water. If you show someone's clips before the war in Ukraine saying the war doesn't happen, still hasn't happened, they choose the war has not happening. Like, I didn't think that the war wasn't going to happen or anything like that. But like, if you did, it you can't just show that and like treat that as if that's what the person actually believes now. Like, they were wrong about a prediction that it was going to happen, which is like, you know, if someone was like, I don't think that the New York Jets is going to win the Super Bowl, and then they do win. That doesn't mean you hate the team, or you think that the team that was going to play them is really, really good, and you like that team. It means you don't think they're going to win. You could really, 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 really want them to win, but you're just saying, I don't think they will win. And when they do win, woo! You know. Now, obviously, in this case, it's a bad thing, but you know, there is this aspect of you aren't a very. I wouldn't say you aren't very good. I'd say you're very. You can improve your journalistic ethics. It's not.
I don't care who it is.
And here we are now 3 weeks or so after. Do you think there's been evidence that's emerged that suggests they
It's
committed
3
those?
weeks after, so you know that would be, if it's like exactly 3 weeks. It's 29th of October. So it's yeah. This would be about a week or two before Dylan recorded this.
There may be an individual.
What do you think a question mark with him? What does he
You
mean?
just interrupted him. My fucking god.
To see here, what standard of evidence does this should be the follow-up by Glenn Greenwald? And look, at least Glenn Greenwald is following it up, right? But this should be the follow-up by Glenn Greenwald. What standard of evidence does the Israelis need to meet for you to believe that war crimes were committed? Because we have DNA evidence, we have like the physical bodies that the Israelis have provided to journalists, we have tons and tons of footage, we have photographs, we have Hamas fighters filming themselves committing the war crimes. Like, what else do you need? What else do you need? By the way, this is not even the first time that Roger Waters has denied war crimes. In fact, in the past, he has attacked the White Helmets, an aid group in Syria that had a lot of just fucking batshit theories floating around it due to the Assad media space, just attacking the White Helmets and saying that Assad didn't commit the war crimes that he committed, didn't commit the chemical attacks that he committed. The dozens of chemical attacks that he committed. So this is a part of a pattern of behavior of Roger. I don't know if he's purposely sipping for the Assad government or purposely sipping from us. I doubt that's it, but I do think that to some degree this is purposeful ignorance.
Reading a news story this morning, which Grayson,
We have so okay. You know, all that footage, all those pictures, all that evidence. Push that all to the side. Push it all to the side. Gray zone. Max Blumenthal. Let's not trust Israeli reports on the ground.
I will be. What are you trusting? Israeli reports on the ground or Israeli media? There's the difference.
Trust the guy not in Israel, not on the ground, not talking to victims. Let's trust their report on what happened by misinterpreting other reports from the ground. Which, by the way, the Gray Zone article I assume he's about to talk about. It was a Gray Zone article that was published that said that basically that the IDF killed the majority of the civilians by just bombing them. They just bombed their own civilians. They didn't know where the civilians were. They didn't know where the Hamas fighters were. So they just bombed everything. And this is extrapolated from one throwaway line in Haaretz piece. Now, I'm pretty sure if Haaretz was able to find anything that they could use to lambast Netanyahu more,
That doesn't really make much sense, but
they would. And if they could find out that the Israeli army killed the majority of the civilians, like was being indicated as people were misreporting what the Haaretz article said, Jackson Hinkle even misreported it, publishing a whole bunch of lies saying like, oh, actually the vast majority of people were killed were soldiers, just like that other person was saying earlier. And Harass had to come out because of all these fucking bullshit stories that were using their reporting incorrectly, misrepresented. And they had to come out and say, no, this isn't true. All of this is a lie. All of this is fake.
So there's a long story which I read this morning, but Haaretz have finally come out with figures of how many people were actually killed and who they were.
On that day,
On that day, yeah. And so probably the first 400 were Israeli military personnel. Who are?
That doesn't make it.
306.
Morally corrupt.
306 out of 1,000, like 300 to 400 people.
It's not a war crime.
No, clearly everyone thinks military officials and military targets or soldiers in Israel are
But depends if
military
you the
targets.
Geneva Conventions or not,
Right.
or the United Nations.
But what about targeting civilians or abducting them?
No, of course.
Of course, that's bad if it happened. Like, I'm sorry, but if I was to come out and be like, yo, if 9/11 happened, obviously that was a tragedy. You know, you don't give me credit for saying, well, he said it did happen. You'd be like, wait, what do you mean if 9/11 happened? If somebody says, well, bombing happened, obviously if it happened, it's a tragedy. If it happened, we know it happened. Why would you split hairs on that? We have overwhelming evidence that it happened. And so now, like, there's an out for him, which is like, well, if it did happen, it's bad. We'll give him credit.
This is a different thing. If you're talking about an attack on, I wouldn't. It isn't a good example because 9/11 is, you know, I agree with the attribution. By the way, I don't think it was America. If 9/11, because 9/11 was attributed to a group that aren't good anyway. It's not like, oh, we would have been friends with them, but sure, you know, they did bomb 9/11, so we can't. They did do it, so we can't do that. Like, now we can't support them anymore. If it was that, you could say, well, you know, someone saying it wasn't their job would be saying it's a tragedy, but it's not the same thing. Of course, the reality with 9/11 is a little bit different because obviously, you know, and it is similar in this case. But I mean, the argument would be that if Hamas didn't want the ones doing it, whether people were, you know, people were dead, that you know, that would not be in the same realm. Because it would be the own government doing it. But that doesn't really work for Hamas because Hamas is fucking bad anyway. You know, I mean, it's yeah.
Credit for that. If someone came up on a stage and was giving a history lecture, like, you know, if the Holocaust happened, obviously it was a threat. The whole crowd would, for good reason, go in uproar. Going up, what do you mean if? The evidence is overwhelming. But what's this if? You can say that the exact death toll we don't know. You can say that the you know, exact amount of bodies that were killed. You can say stuff like that. But the idea that we don't know if war crimes were committed by Hamas, and using a Haaretz report, which by the way, Haaretz has documented.
That's framing. What do you mean? Do you mean that the war crime, that Hamas was there, but they didn't commit war crimes, or you're saying that Hamas wasn't there at all? That was fake Hamas. I'm not too good. Once again, I think it was Hamas. I think all that. I think 9/11 wasn't done by the Americans themselves. But I'm just saying, these are the positions you have to look at. Not you have to look at the actual, examine what would be the most logical meaning of this, instead of just going, your brain is broken. You don't know what you're talking. Your brain's broken, man. Like, you just don't know. Your brain's broken. You're wrong. See, you'd be wrong with this. Like, yeah, you would be. Maybe this is a little bit more of a charitable interpretation. It's still probably wrong, but you know, you just be a little bit better at comprehending the possibility of other opinions.
The war crimes. Here's Israel's dead. The vast majority of the people on this list are civilians. Mm-hmm. How do you think these civilians died? If he's going to use Haaretz's reporting, and he thinks they're reliable enough for him to take the Grayson report, which based it off of the Haaretz reporting, he was able to use it, then why is he only using it to say, hey, Sergeant First Class Johnson, Sergeant First Class Oziri, these guys are soldiers. Why not Vitali? Why not Michael? Why not Zohar? Why not any of these other people? Why not this rave goer, Coral Geta? Why not any of these other people? Why is it, well, we can use the soldiers that died on this list as evidence that they killed soldiers, but we're not going to use the civilians dead on the list as evidence that they killed civilians. We're not going to use that. What is this double standard? So this proves to me that Roger Waters is a lying, dishonest piece of shit hack in my mind. If he sees a Haaretz report or knows of this Haaretz report's existence, that has been misinterpreted.
I've kind of seen you though,
not misinterpreted, I think manipulated by Gray Zone. If he sees this Haaretz report and he can go to the Haaretz report and he knows of its existence, then if he would go in and look at the bodies and he was to look at who's on the list, he would know that the majority of them are civilians. How did those civilians die, Mr. Waters? How did they die? They didn't just all drop dead. You know, it wasn't like they had like some bad psychedelics at the rave and they all fell off a cliff. They were shot, they were murdered, they were killed. We have overwhelming evidence. And he just continues to deny it because he has to be the contrarian. He has to be against the grain of the establishment, man. He needs to keep that 1970s hippie, anti-war VIP. He needs to keep that vibe. And so he can acknowledge the brutality of what happened on October 7th, and then Roger Waters immediately followed it up by.
You are aware of the right. That doesn't make it, because you could be against Hamas, and that could be you could be exterminate Hamas extremists. That would also arguably make you against war.
Well, more violence begins violence. He could say some platitude, whatever he wanted, but he can't even deal with step one of acknowledging that this happened. God, man.
No,
shut up and sing. You know, shut up and dribble, shut up and sing. Ironically.
No, of course not. No, of course I don't condone that. But the thing was thrown out of all proportion by the Israelis making up stories about beheading babies. They even got the President of the United States, dotard that he is, to claim that he had seen photographs.
The Biden's claiming he's seen the photographs, so he didn't see the photograph. That was wild. But I said this at the time. I said, let's be careful because beheaded baby things is going to become a red herring. Where anytime somebody brings up the violence that happened on October 7th targeting civilians, somebody's going to try to push back against it by just bringing up the beheaded baby stories, which is still yet to be verified independently as far as I know. And so I said at the time, let's be careful, because it's going to be like the babies in incubator story Kuwait, where we find out the one story may not be true or was not reported correctly, and so then everybody just says, oh, so there's no brutality, or oh, this is evidence that, you know, we should question all of the evidence. And therefore, you know, we don't really know what's true and what's real anymore, so let's disregard trying to slice the facts about what happened on October 7th. And they're just going to use it to paint every single dead civilian as basically a fake, a fraud, not real.
I mean,
it's become a red herring, and I really don't like it. I really don't like it, because at the end of the day, does it really matter if the baby was beheaded or shot or burnt to death?
But see, that's my fucking point. That's my point. You can't react to somebody going, you're arguing that it didn't happen. It's like, no, they're arguing that this specific thing didn't happen. Wait for them to fucking finish speaking.
Does it really matter? I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all.
Me too.
I do think it matters when it comes to the honesty of reporting, but when it comes to the brutality or morality of what happened, that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
The baby
I agree with you there. To me, it is very odd when you have this. But that's. I mean, I've said this already about you. Like it appears yourself didn't agree with it before because you were arguing with it. Anyway, maybe he agrees with you. How about that? You know? Maybe when he's talking about things that didn't happen, he's talking about specifically these things. Once again, don't think he is, but I'm saying you gotta be a little bit more charitable on this. This is why you probably should be careful about pre-watching, because it gives away this impression that you're untrustworthy and you don't want to give ground, and that at the end you're right, but that you're just like, that there's no reason for you to be. It's like a sort of like a Sherlock Holmes style thing, like it's like no, that kind of deductive reasoning just wouldn't fucking work the majority of the time. Like, it worked this time, but there are just so many false positives that would occur that just and false negatives that just would fuck up this entire process. You were right, luckily, but like in general, no. So that's the problem. Yeah, I do think it's very odd when people bring up these things. Like, yeah, obviously that it doesn't matter that much if there's more violence. Like, it's just but yeah.
Beheaded babies.
Yeah, and then admitted that he actually didn't. Yeah.
I mean, what we do know is whether it was a false flag operation or not, or whatever happened, whatever story we're going to get to. I mean, we don't know if we will ever get much of a real story.
What the fuck is he saying? We have it now, you dumb cunt. We have it. You have it right now. Shut the
Hey! No need for the language.
fuck up, you dumb motherfucker. We have it right now.
Hey.
Oh, we have it right now. What more do you need? Somebody ask. This burnt out wreck of a human being. What standard of evidence needs to be met? What standard of evidence? We have photos, videos. We have the physical bodies themselves. We have footage from every.
You have just said that you don't really care about, if people are beheaded or the fact is we have this level of evidence. If we don't have evidence for this much, okay, fine. That much is not proven. Fine. That's still bad. The evidence we have is still bad. So don't then go, well, look, we have the evidence. Maybe they're talking about the stuff that isn't. Okay, anyway.
Single side of the conflict.
If someone says we don't have the full story, and you're like, oh, we do have the full story. Like, no. We have the story that Johnny was going down the road to the shop and a backpack on his back. But we don't know what color the backpack is. Like that. That's not important. That's not important. The gun was in the backpack. That's not important. How is that important? Like, well, we don't have the full story. Like, technically speaking, I guess, yeah, you don't have the full story. You don't know the color of his backpack. Like, okay, how is that important? Like, how is that relevant? But it's still technically true. You don't have the full story. You can't react to that person saying, no, we do have the full story. Like, no, you don't. But you can critique, why the fuck do you need to know what color backpack the person had? I'm giving an example of a situation where it's a piece of information where it doesn't really matter. But it is true to say you don't have the full story. Be aware of that.
Honestly, the monsters only. Okay, I'm gonna shoot this dog, shoot this person. They documented all of it. It's documented from so many different angles. We live in the 21st fucking century. Everybody has a cell phone.
It's actually on mobile.
I know the truth. Sorry. Not everything needs to be some fucking murder mystery podcast, okay? Something we see footage of a guy going into a store, shoot the guy that takes money at the cash register. You don't need to put like a million question marks on it. What was his motivation here? Can we truly find out that this was really a bank robbery, or was it actually an assassination of some pedophile? No, shut the fuck up. We saw what happened. We know what happened. We have overwhelming evidence as to what happened. When it comes to specific details, when it comes to specific war crimes, we might not have all the details fleshed out. But when it comes to the vast majority
the problem is with you saying that this person is right. Okay, but they're not right. They're right about this section. Full story.
What got out of here? We have so much overwhelming evidence. It's not even a question. I think this is malicious. I think this is malicious because he couldn't come to this conclusion unless he went and looked through the evidence himself. And he was talking about the Rex report earlier. So he must either know, or he just read that Grayzone article and went like, that's enough for me, and then just kept on going about his day without doing any more digging, or actually looking at the source that Grayzone used, which did not back up what they were saying.
It's also hard to tell what actually happened. They're calling it their 9/11. What the hell happened on the American 9/11? Nobody knows.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I kind of like the fact brought up 9/11, to be honest. Once again, I think America did not do it to themselves. I also don't think that they were fully aware that it was going to happen, right? I don't think that. But, Jesus Christ, that butthole is, like, many people would use that butt for other things. I'm just saying, that is the thing people believe. So just...
They claim Al-Qaeda they said he did it. This is the thing that confuses me. If Al-Qaeda
Okay. Do you comprehend what terrorist actions do, okay? Do you understand? No terrorist group is going to go, oh, we're being blamed for a terrorist action, which is like, how the fuck did they even do that? That's kind of almost impressive in a really gruesome sort of way. They're not going to say they didn't do it if they're getting credit, okay? The only instance in which they're going to say they didn't do it is if it is so much against what they believe in that they're like, we do not want to be connected with that, or it is so hard to prove that they actually did it that it's like, this is gonna be fucked if it gets out that they didn't do it, because then they're gonna have said that they did it, and then it's gonna be like it's gonna be a tarnish on the record of them being admitting to things. Just because a terrorist organization admits to something does not mean they actually did it. It makes perfect sense. This constantly happens every time a terrorist organization is blamed for something that they can, in a sense, get credit for. They're going to take credit. Unless it is a situation where they might help their enemy. At that point, they're like, nah, because we're not going to do that. But, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases.
For 9/11 was like, what? Huh?
Once again, I think America did not do that. I think he actually did on 9/11. But just the fact of the matter is, you are using poor evidence to try and back something up. Admission of guilt from a terrorist organization is not proof. It's worse proof than admission from interrogation from police officers in America.
What? No, that was an hot dog. What? We were getting hot dogs. We were watching that new Borat movie that just came out. Man, Osama was sunbathing in Miami, man. That was nuts. That's a Bush project. And then maybe maybe we should look a little bit into this. Why wouldn't they? They claimed it. They openly claimed it. Like,
now, what does section do? They wouldn't do that. Why would they do that? That would make very little sense for them to do, because that makes you look weak. Why do you think Wagner was marching on Russia? It makes you look weak if you say that was planned by Russia. That makes you look weak. Admitting that it was fake, It makes Wagner look weak if they admit that, because makes him look like not really a mercenary group, but more just an extension of the Russian military, and kind of basically is at this point. And it's like, okay, do you comprehend what that might be? That it's just this kind of just.
Look, I highly doubt that Roger Waters sat down and read the 9/11 report if he can't even follow up on the Grayson article. Okay, I don't think he's done the dig even know. Oh, we don't really know what happened. Get out of here. Bush flew off 3 planes by himself and then flew back down to the kindergarten to act
Come on, don't.
surprised. You wanna know how I know? There's a million reasons as to why I know that the government didn't plan 9/11. But Bush, 9/11, kindergarten. Look at this moment. I don't think Bush is smart enough to react the way he did in the school when he found out. I generally don't. Here it is. Here it is.
Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 153. At the count of 3, everyone should know that this is
Where's the zoom in on his face? I want to zoom in on his face. Because this doesn't show it well. Mom, you need an image. I don't believe this is fake. I don't believe this is fake at all. I don't believe this is fake. That man's genuinely listening. That isn't like, let's make a show for the cameras. Look, how could we have had a plot so far reaching and we just still haven't figured it? Whatever. Either way, I don't think Roger Waters did the research. I don't think he had any idea what he's talking about. And did we finish the Roger Waters thing? Did we finish the Roger Waters thing? Can we just be done with the Roger Waters thing? I don't even. Watch a little bit more.
No, watch the end of it. You can't do this sort of thing. Roger Waters is it's gross. Didn't watch all of it though.
Well, clearly the official narrative has huge holes in it. And anyway, let's not go into the 9/11.
But I guess that when people, there are two kinds of people I think who raise this anti-Semitism accusation against not only you, but people like you. One is they criticize the Israeli government. The other is
that what we just saw? Were those smashing critiques of the Israeli government? All your dead babies are actually soldiers? Is that just the smashing frontline criticisms of the Israeli government?
the claim that you seem to value Palestinian lives more than Israeli lives.
Yeah, it does. You know what? It does seem like that. Because where's Roger Waters saying, like, when he sees any of these strikes on a Palestinian home, is he like, oh yeah, let's do a deep investigation here? That could have been a Russian jet. Maybe it was a Hamas false flag, and they put explosives in the building to make Israel look bad. Like, there's no questions from him about that. There's zero questions from him about that. I think it would be ridiculous to say something like that. The Hamas plant explosives in this building to kill all these people. I think that'd be a ridiculous thing to call a false flag. But he's perfectly.
Why? Israel said the hospital wasn't them. Why? Because Israel has said that. You know? That's another. Why would Hamas ever admit to accidentally or intentionally striking Palestinians? They wouldn't, because that would be foolishness and would also portray a bit of a lack of control. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of military strategy. It's not, wise to.
We find saying, well, maybe the attack on the false flag, not knowing how false flags work.
Absolute patent nonsense.
Is that what I was gonna say? What is your...
Once again, if somebody says something where it doesn't quite match the definition, don't fucking attack them and say, oh, no, it's not that thing. Like, if someone confuses murder with manslaughter and they go, you murdered the person, it's like, well, no, you ran over them with your car and then you drove on. Like, no, you technically didn't murder them. You did a hit and run. They still did kill them. You know? They did kill them. And it sounds as if you're saying they didn't kill them if you say they didn't murder them and treat the person like an... No, but they are right. They did kill them. I'm not saying, by the way, that Israel did plan it. I'm saying that a false flag is used by people to say that the government actually intentionally bombed or killed their own civilians, or, alternatively, allowed people to be killed. Weird thing with it. Sad thing. The Bush thing. People who think that the president has that level of power, like, do you understand the concept of like the military going, oh, look, there's a plane. Oh, imagine if someone didn't tell people there was a plane that was hijacked. That would be that plane's gonna drive into the city and it's gonna cause a lot of people to die. And well, I'm not, once again, don't think America did that, but I'm saying if they did, once again, don't think they did, and I don't. I'm not like, oh, I don't think they did that, but like maybe. I know, I'm saying don't think they did at all, but the person who does believe that can respond to your Bush thing by saying, well, first of all, you can act. Also, the president does not necessarily know everything the military gets up to. They can just not tell them. And all these things. And these are all situations where you're, okay. Maybe have a little bit more of an advancement than this,
Complete rubbish. No, I don't. This is the whole point of the difference between my platform and the Israeli government. I believe in equal human rights for all our brothers and sisters all over the world, irrespective of their ethnicity, religion, or nationality.
Unless you get friendly with America, then that's provoking. You can sorry, I'm being an asshole. I'll break out. Thanks for
Yeah, because the majority of Europe is there.
The Israeli government doesn't. For instance, just in that locale there, what we could call the Holy Land, if we wanted to, they consider that people who of the Jewish religion have completely different set.
Okay, I think we're done. I don't want to listen anymore. Actually, he just angers me, man. He just pisses me off, man. God, what a burnout.
Yeah, this is a terrible example of journalistic. Like, there's just no journalist integrity there. That I didn't particularly like that. That's not great there. That's not great. That's pretty bad. Yeah. So one final thing. The whole thing at the end there does seem a bit like anti-Semitism. The whole thing. I don't really like when people say Jewish when it comes to Israeli, because those are two very separate things. They're very separate. They're not the same thing. So treating them as if they are the same thing is not great. You hear this from both sides. Where people will they won't. It's odd. You have this sort of. It's like you have someone defending Israel, but in doing so says something like connecting Jewish people to Israel. It's like no, not the same thing. No, you can't do that. That is not okay. Anyway, seeing as we apparently don't have enough integrity from down there, we're gonna have to transfer over and continue the thing. One side thing, Israel calling 9/11 is not really a good example, because 9/11 is a mass tragedy. Isn't that many people in the grand scheme of things. Like, America's reaction to 9/11 was insane, really. It's not that much of a fucking thing. It's, I mean, I think there's, but that has, America's a history of that, where, like I said, it is an excuse. But yeah.
People like you both say one is because they criticize the Israeli government. The other is the claim that you seem to value Palestinian lives more than Israeli lives. That's
absolute patent nonsense.
That's what I say. What is your
complete rubbish? No, I don't. This is the whole point of the difference between my platform and the Israeli government. I believe in equal human rights for all our brothers and sisters all over the world, irrespective of their ethnicity, religion, or nationality. The Israeli government doesn't. For instance, just in that locale there, what we could call the Holy Land, if we wanted to, they consider that people who of the Jewish religion have completely different set of rights to everybody else. This is fundamentally important. That's why in my message I go, do you subscribe to the idea of equal human rights or not? Because as soon as you don't, you are a Nazi. And I know people.
No.
You can't say Nazi.
Not fascist, maybe, but a Nazi is a very specific type of fascist. Stupid, really, is amazing.
That ideology is not unique. It could be anybody who adopts that view that some human life is more valuable
anybody
than
who's a
others.
supremacist is whatever you want to call it, a fascist. Or you just say, oh, he, she, they are those people who consider themselves superior to us. That's why they call them animals. That's why they dehumanize them. That's why they are committing genocide on them.
I mean, it's fucking food phobia. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't say Nazi. It would be more like a fascist. A Nazi is a terrible ideology to go with, because the likelihood of you eventually being on the chopping block is very high. Like, we don't even know, or we kind of do know, the extent the Nazis would have gone. Like, we do know the extent that they did go, and the extent that they planned to go, but it kind of looks like they would have gone further and further and further and further and further. And my question, I remember when I was learning about the Nazis, and this was like not learning about the Nazis originally, but learning about the Nazis from a qualification point of view. I remember asking somebody, do you think they would eventually kill Hitler? Because Hitler is not blonde-haired, blue-eyed, German. Doesn't really match the ideal thing. Isn't that skilled in these events? Psychologically has a few problems. Not really the best person to be a leader, And from the Nazi point of view, not really a person who deserves the right to live in their state. So, I don't mean force. I mean literally, what would they just him?
today. I'm sorry to grit my teeth, but I weep at
No, it's
you
horrific.
saying this is the most horrific thing
Or
in my
would
life.
it,
It
or
is
would the cut of personality have been enough?
in my life. I'm 80 years old. This is the most horrific thing to happen in front of my eyes.
Is it?
And yet, the government of the United States of America, where
And
I
of UK.
and yeah, UK I don't live there anymore, okay?
Right.
But, and all the vassal states in the
Europe.
European community are all just giving the Israelis carte
Why?
blanche to murder two
Why are
women.
they doing that?
You tell me, Glenn. I don't get it.
Is my country doing that?
It has something to do with some kind of political expediency that I don't understand.
Well, we just had, I just about 2 weeks ago, we interviewed Professor Stephen Walt, and then yesterday we interviewed Professor John Mearsheimer, both of whom co-wrote the book The Israel in 2006. Actually, do purported to explain where this kind of influence comes from. And they were very clear that it's not just the standard obvious response of, well, there's a lot of American Jews and Western Jews who exercise a lot of influence. There's also, you go to Congress, as one of my friends who is a journalist, Lee Fong, did, we interviewed him last night too, and he went and interviewed a bunch of members of Congress and said, why is your posture that you want to give the Israeli government anything it wants, that there's no criticism permitted, that they'll never say no to the Israelis? What kind of country has that posture for others? And a lot of them will openly say, it's because we believe religiously that Israel has to be strong, because only then can Jesus return and have a rapture like
They're Christian fascists.
they're hardcore Christian Zionists, who somehow are Christians and yet don't value Palestinian life.
Well, because they don't
It's weird because they also don't value Israeli life because they're gonna massacre, which is really fucked up. Like it's like, oh no, the child must be protected so that they can be eaten by Satan. What? They would be eaten by Satan, and then Satan will die. It's like, but that, so you're protecting the child so they could be eaten? Yes, but Satan, of course, will keep the child trapped in eternal torment. Okay, so you're saying you want to save the terrible people who would go to hell by trapping Satan where Satan will kill and torture a child for eternity. And that's why you're protecting the child. That is a weird fucking ideology. And okay, wow. Okay. Fucking weird, man. Yeah, that is psychotic. Another reason I think though is
subscribe to my view, which is
the Germans say this, where they're like, well, they don't want to be seen as anti-Semitic, But my argument with that is, well, Germany, this advice for you: don't give money to a far right government. Then that's step
we're all
number
equal
one
because-
to not seeming anti-Semitic, to not give money to government, which is arguably not Jewish and is more,
we're all African. It was 150,000 years ago. There were a very few of us, and we were from Africa, and we spread out over this world. And various of us settled in different places, and because of the weather and because we intermarried, some of us look different from others. But we now know, because of the human genome, we know that we're all cousins. We're all related. And my goodness, particularly the Jewish people who claim that their ancestors are from the Holy Land are incredibly closely related to the Palestinians, whose ancestors they're all Semites. If they were to have geographical associations with Israel and or Palestine,
this is true. Christians, like Christians and Jewish people they're all from the area. Like not as in all the people, but all the religions are from that area. Which is interesting to see from a historical perspective, the fact that all these religions originate from here. So any individual religions claiming it, like the Christians try to claim Jerusalem, like that's the fucked up ideology people have of, oh well, my religion came from here, so I have a right to okay, but so did theirs. I think everyone should have the right, but like you can't have exclusive rights.
they are all cousins. They're close cousins. So this is bizarre. And do you know what I think? It simply has to do with wealth and power.
Okay. Only on. Oh, for fuck's sake, that is something else. Oh, fascist. Okay, have to say, if you don't want to come off as a fascist, don't go on Rumble. There are other outlets to go on that host video. You can go on it's not like YouTube is the only one, or Rumble is the second one. You can go on them. You don't have to go on Fascist Central. So yeah, that to me, that's not great. The whole thing at the end there with money, it's like, okay, a bit odd. Don't really like that, to be honest. Don't really like that at all. That's to me is.
If they were to have geographical associations with Israel and or Palestine, they are all cousins. They're close cousins. So this is bizarre. And do you know what I think? It simply has to do with wealth and power.
Wealth and power is an odd one. I think it comes from just an aspect there. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with him. I just think that Dylan here didn't do enough work when it came to journalistic integrity. Skipping people, leaving stuff out. Introducing people who are just objectively kind of stupid in their propaganda. Like, who goes, oh yes, they're all sergeant majors, man. That makes total sense. Like, okay, if that were true, that would imply? That would imply the Israelis had their sergeant majors murdered by Hamas intentionally. Because why the fuck would they be sergeant majors there? Why would it not be general soldiers if it were soldiers? To be clear, it's not soldiers, it is mostly civilians. But I'm just saying, if you're going to create propaganda, maybe be a little bit better with it, Just a little bit better. Anyway. Also, but it's that thing, like, Israel has conscription and, like, drafts. So like, even if they were soldiers, the Iron will be like, okay, but are they like active soldiers? Like, how do you know if they're active? Like, if someone's like, well, they are a soldier, but they weren't active, they were just there, not as a soldier, then they weren't going to be there with military intel. They weren't going to be there with military weaponry. They weren't going to be there with all that stuff. So why exactly? Well, I mean, potentially it could be there with military weaponry. Who knows? But I mean, what I'm trying to say is like I just don't get the whole why the anti-Israel propaganda ties is just weird to me. Like, okay, this doesn't, anyway. Yeah, not the best on both sides. But yeah, I obviously don't agree with Roger on a few of those points. But just also a lot of problems from down there. Just a few issues. Once again, I do not think that America did not. I do not think that. But the defense against that was badly made by Dunn. It's badly made. The claims that but Hamas claimed it. That's not evidence of anything. The lack of concept of understanding the fact that Israel could let it happen, know or know it's going to happen, and not inform anyone. Like, even if you're not able to stop it, just the aspect of sending out a warning so people flee. By the way, potentially dangerous in itself if you're wrong. But yeah, that wasn't really addressed correctly. Many issues, but anyway, that's been me. Goodbye.